The Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, is betting big on Occidental Petroleum. The energy company has quickly become one of Berkshire Hathaway's top 10 holdings of its portfolio. But what exactly is Berkshire's long-term strategy for its Occidental investment? Let's bring in Cathy Seifert, CFRA Vice President of Equity Research. Cathy, first up, what's your view on this holding?
I think it makes sense, both from just an equity investment perspective, but also should Berkshire decide to increase its holding. It would not be a bad holding within the sort of the umbrella of Berkshire Hathaway Energy. Buffett and the Oxy CEO have a good relationship, which is important because when Berkshire does acquire companies, they tend to be freestanding entities. They're not, they tend to be, the existing management team tends to be left in place. So, but honestly, Berkshire doesn't tip their hand. They don't hold analyst calls. They don't provide strategy updates. So, really, aside from the fact that we know they got regulatory approval to buy up to 50%, he could stop there. I also do think there is a high degree of sensitivity at Berkshire about running into any kind of a regulatory issue. This is a company that tends to not have any regulatory issues, any regulatory run-ins. So there's obviously that concern. So, honestly, at this point, we really don't know. Right now, it's an equity holding. It could be more, but for now, it's not. And he could go up to 50%.
Cathy, do you think we could be in a scenario at some point that we see a play for the entire company?
I think it's possible. I wouldn't rule it out, but at this point, we're not getting any strong indication either way. I think that's one, the strategy, Oxy within the overall strategy for Berkshire Hathaway Energy, I think is an important question that I hope will get raised during the Q&A session at the annual meeting on Saturday.
Yeah, Cathy, how do you see this investment in Occidental? How does it complement some of the other moves, some of the other investments that we have seen in Berkshire Hathaway Energy?
Well, in Berkshire Hathaway Energy, Berkshire Hathaway Energy has got a fairly diversified stable of companies ranging from, coal energy into, solar. And so actually some of the carbon capture capabilities at Oxy could actually fit nicely within that stable. But at this point, it's an equity investment. So I think it's important to look at it within sort of the framework of the overall Berkshire operating model, which tends to be own companies on an operating basis that tend to not have a high regulatory burden, i.e. consumer products companies, some of the railroads, insurance. And then from an equity perspective, he'll have bank holdings, technology holdings, things like that. So there's been that strategy that's been in place at Berkshire for quite some time, and I don't see any reason for that to change.
Cathy, what's your view on the valuation, the price of Berkshire Class B shares? Do you feel they're fairly valued in the current market?
I do. It's interesting. There was an article in the Journal today that talked about Buffett's special sauce, and that was investing for dividends. And I think one of the things you give up investing in the Berkshire Hathaway Class B shares is you're not getting a dividend. You're giving up 2% versus, the broader market. The shares have also lagged year to date. They've lagged the broader market. They're trading at about 20 times forward earnings, they're trading at about 21, 22 times forward earnings, which is a premium to their historical averages. And then if you look at the underlying businesses, there are a number of potential challenges as we head into a slower economic environment. So, taking all of that together, I think the shares are fairly valued.
And Cathy, I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you about, there's some proposals that are expected to be on the table at the May 6th meeting coming up just days away with regard to ESG, climate. What do you expect to happen with regard to these proposals?
I expect they'll be voted down because Warren Buffett has a 31 controlling interest, a voting interest, and similar proposals were floated last year and failed to gain any traction. And again, the whole notion of ESG and climate disclosure The Berkshire sort of house view on this is that the operating companies, the responsibility for climate disclosure falls to the operating subsidiaries, not the holding company. So you'll get a climate statement from Berkshire Energy, but you're not going to get it from the holding company. I think it's a subpar business practice, and it's, not keeping with Berkshire's large cap peers. And I think it's, I just don't think it's appropriate in this environment to sort of turn a blind eye to this.
Got it. All right. Cathy, Seifert, fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today.